Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome into Tom Curran's Patriots Talk podcast. We got some content for you today. As always, we're going to have the Senator Phil Perry at the top, and he's going to have a hypothetical to answer, as did many of you on Twitter today when I put out this question. Additionally, we have Hunter Henry, Patriots tight end, talking to us about the care and feeding of a first-round quarterback because he came up working alongside Justin Herbert with the Chargers, and he's seen Mac Jones. What do the Patriots need to do to make life easy for their potential first-round pick? And finally, Merril Hoge hates everybody. He will be joining us at the tail end of the program. But first, it's Phil. And Phil, welcome.
Thank you. I do not hate everyone. I love everyone, and I'm happy to be here.
Happy birthday to Phil's middle child, Livy. That's important to note here as well. Phil's already said that, so he doesn't have to say it in public. Quick Slants poll today, Phil, posed this hypothetical. It's October 1st, 2026. Your head coach in the Armageddon Bowl. You got the ball at your own 20. There's 1:30 remaining, and you got 3 timeouts. You trail in the game 24-20. You need a touchdown. And the fate of the planet rests on this outcome. Which of these 3 quarterbacks will you want under center? Jaden Daniels, Drake May, or McCarthy? Do you want me to tell you what the public voted first, or do you want to utter your own response?
I have one question first.
Yeah, here we go.
This is pretty simple. Which team are they playing for?
The trailing team.
Are they the Patriots in 2026? Are they just an average ass football team? What are they? I need one little morsel of context.
What?
Give me something.
All right, you know what? I'm going to flip it and say, what difference does it make?
Well, if it's the San Francisco 49ers, if it's like the best team on the planet and we put them together.
So you're going to talk about like using your timeouts and getting the ball back and punting?
No. If it's Armageddon and it's like the aliens came down, they said, give us your best football team and you get to pick one, so we say, okay, well, give us the Niners and you get to drop one of these quarterbacks in, that would be one thing. If it's just an average NFL team, that would be another thing. I would pick a different quarterback.
Why?
If it was the Patriots, well, because I think J.J. McCarthy needs a great situation. I think he'd be great in that situation that you're describing with the right teammates around him, Thomas. This is not that complicated to understand. Stick with me here. Jaden Daniels.
I know it's not.
On a horrible team, Jaden Daniels. No, I'm saying to you, what I am portraying is the situation that these quarterbacks in, meaning the players around them, not the time and the score situation that you've provided.
Down the field to score a touchdown?
Matters.
Of course it does.
So tell me who they're playing with.
This is insane. All right, so the best.
Just come up with something. Use that big brain of yours, the thing in between your ears. Use it and give me a scenario.
This is insane that you would take okay, well, if I have this wide out and this tight end and I don't have as much protection, I'm going to take this player. But this player, if this guy blocks better, then we're going to get into what's the defensive line on the other side look like. Are we going to get into who's banged up at corner for the other team?
It's actually a very simple question that I asked you, and you are providing resistance, which is uncommonly, I think stubborn, just because you don't want to add more to it, because you don't want to take the 2 seconds to put any ounce of thought into this other than what you've already done.
Well, I just don't think that you're really going to unearth anything that's radically different with.
I will. So now I'll have to spell it out for you. If it's an average team, I'll use Jaden Daniels, who's a great athlete and could maybe do a few things in a situation like that all on his own. If it's a really good team, then I would rather have J.J. McCarthy, because I've actually seen him perform in some clutch, in some tight situations.
Really good teams face 3rd and 8 too. So that's the fact.
I know. Sometimes though, like if you have really good weapons around you, it makes how you handle 3rd and 8 a little bit differently. Like if I need 3rd and 8 and it's the New England Patriots in 2024, that's different than 3rd and 8 with the San Francisco 49ers in 2024.
Certainly.
So if it was the Patriots, I'd rather have Jaden Daniels. If it was the Niners, I'd rather have J.J. McCarthy. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I'll stack them this way, keeping it simple. The guy.
We've already established that.
What?
We've established that you want to keep it simple.
It's 280 character poll that we're putting out there. And that's people get into the comments.
We're in a podcast here. I'm asking for a little more context. This is a different platform.
Yeah. I would take Jaden Daniels because of the dual threat proposition and the better throwing arm. I would then take JJ McCarthy, and then I would take Drake May because I can't afford brain lock and bad decisions. Or in addition, I would rather have the guy who can make you that 14 yards on 3rd and 8 more readily. Not that Drake May can't. The other guys are more prone to be able to do that because of their quickness and scrambling ability. How will I feel in 2026? I might not feel the same way about Jaden Daniels. I might have him 3rd. You know why? Because he might have played 15 games and 9 games, and then he's on his way to 14 games. I don't trust the build, Phil.
So I hadn't even really considered the 2026 part of this. In 2026, I think my answer might be different too. If I think Drake May is the best quarterback prospect in the class, which I have said many times, by 2026, he should be the best player.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
So that changes it for me. If it was 2024, I think I'd be picking between the other two guys. But 2026, I'm going to scrap everything I said earlier, and I'm going to just go with Drake May. So there. How do you like that? You know how much time we could have saved if you could have just said, well, it's a pretty good team, or it's not a great team. Just like that, those like 3 words would have saved us like 5 minutes. I'm blaming you.
How much more time would have been saved if you listened to the hypothetical question where I said
I listened to it and I asked for a little bit more context that you could not provide.
But you didn't hear the date. And that was what we started with.
The date I did just skip right past the date. That's true.
So we wouldn't have been in that position.
So that's
so the fans think who read the question.
Oh, yeah. What do they say?
Drake May by 41%. 40% for Jaden Daniels. 19% for JJ McCarthy. But it's funny because when you go into the comments, everybody likes JJ McCarthy in terms of saying, I've seen him do it. I've seen him do it more readily. And I find that fascinating because there is a groundswell of support that exists right now for JJ McCarthy. It exists reportedly from Mike Giardi and Michael Hawley both, who've cited chatter and a growing adoration might be strong, but a growing like for JJ McCarthy. And it existed last week when our guy Tony Pauline came on and explained fully why he said that Elliot Wolf is enamored with and very much desires to take JJ McCarthy. So Phil, it's starting to, it could be anybody, it could be smoke screens, but we're going to look back at this and say, well, I guess it was JJ McCarthy, huh? What do you make of that?
We might. I have never ruled out JJ McCarthy as an option for them, and I've pointed out that if you actually look back, this is why at least this time of year, for me, doing the prototypical Patriots series as a selfish endeavor is helpful, because it does let you know, even though Elliot Wolf has never been a general manager before, okay, the people he's worked with, what do they like? And in terms of and this is very, I will admit, very rudimentary stuff that I'm looking for. It's height and weight and, athleticism and hand size. And so the guy who checked every box was Drake May. The guy who was damn close to checking every box was JJ McCarthy, not Jaden Daniels. So when you're looking at, who these other GMs have taken in the past, whether it's Brett Favre or Baker Mayfield or Aaron Rodgers, et cetera, it's a Derek Carr for Reggie McKenzie back in the day. JJ McCarthy is more in that vein than Jaden Daniels at 207 soaking wet is. So I don't rule out JJ McCarthy whatsoever.
We keep coming back to the ceilings, though. And that's what's really interesting about it. Is JJ McCarthy a souped up Mac?
That's a pretty good player, isn't it?
Huh?
That's a pretty good player, isn't it?
Sure. It's Mac with better features. Like if Mac had escapability like JJ McCarthy does, if Mac had the arm that JJ McCarthy does, then he would have been JJ McCarthy. Maybe if he had some of the toughness and resilience too. I don't know, because I thought that Mac was a tough and resilient player, but he was put in kind of an unconventional situation that would have taxed the toughness and resilience of John friggin' Wayne if he was out there.
One thing where I think Mac actually might have JJ McCarthy beat is down the field accuracy.
Mm-hmm.
Not that McCarthy did it all that much, but it does feel like it gets a little sideways on him sometimes trying to throw it down the field. His arm is certainly better. His arm's stronger. But it just feels as though some of that touch that Mac Jones clearly had, very catchable balls, how guys would describe it. I think isn't there with JJ McCarthy in the same way. I've heard JJ McCarthy compared to Brock, like as sort of a souped up version of Brock Purdy.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe a little bit better athlete, although Brock Purdy's a pretty good athlete, I think. Better arm. So, that's a good player. I think the question is, if you're thinking about taking him at 3 overall, is it enough to uplift your team? Which I would also say about Baker Mayfield, who was taken by the Browns when Elliott Wolf was the number 2 in Cleveland, Tom. And so would Elliott Wolf look at that Baker Mayfield pick and say, well, this guy JJ McCarthy's probably the I don't know if he feels this way, but if he sees JJ McCarthy as the closest thing to Baker Mayfield in this draft class when it comes to moxie and athleticism, and is he a little undersized? Maybe does he have smaller hands? Okay, fine, whatever. I don't care. He does all this other stuff. He's a winner. Does he look back at 2018 and say, boy, that was a mistake? I should have bought in on the Wyoming kid or the Louisville kid.
Right.
Because those guys were great players and they're better than Baker Mayfield. Or does he say, well, Baker Mayfield could have been a great player, but the situation just wasn't right?
If we had Josh Allen here, people would be making fun of him as he goes from Los Angeles to Tampa Bay to try and resurrect his career. Well, Lamar Jackson, was playing in the CFL because he went to Cleveland and they sucked so bad that he had to rehabilitate his career. Again, that's why I keep talking about situation. And that's why if you take JJ McCarthy and you feel like, okay, he's a souped up Mac, a souped up Purdy, and I don't know, he might be scintillating. But if you take him, then the onus becomes even more on Elliott Wolf, the de facto GM, to adequately build the rest of the team. Don't worry. We're going to be better. We're going to have a left tackle. We're going to have wide receiver depth. We're going to find another tight end. And then, boom, you have confidence in yourself in building the team. That's what they have to have is if they don't trade back, which, again, I've mentioned as being a palatable decision to make, or at least choice, that's how you build the team. That's how you're getting high-end shots to build the team around. That's the funny thing. If you're going to be sitting there at 3 and then take a souped-up Brock Purdy, as opposed to, as you lobby for, the guy who really is prototypical in Drake May, that is anticlimactic. Hey, Phil, I want to ask you this. Do you think the Patriots are sitting there at number 3 as if they were in a restaurant and looking at the menu and saying, everything looks so good. I mean, I can't go wrong here. Or do you think they're looking at the menu going, you know what? Give me the chicken parm. Which one do you think they're doing?
I believe it's more the former.
Good.
Which is good for them.
Yes.
I have said many times, Tom, I think they have lucked out so incredibly in that they picked a year to be one of the worst teams in football when it just so happens that there are 3 players at the top of the draft that are truly top of the draft worthy types of quarterback prospects.
You got to find the right time to suck, Phil.
They somehow fell into this. And not only is it a good quarterback draft where they're picking, it looks like a deep tackle draft. It looks like a deep receiver draft. These are all positions that they need, and they just so happen to be horrible leading into this draft. So
Bill Belichick just setting them up for future success.
Congrats, chestnut checkers, I guess.
All right,
but yeah, I think they're. What about you? Do you feel that way? I think they're happy with the options on the menu.
I feel like they're asking ingredients on each of these different dishes: the chicken parm, the ribeye. These are the things that I get, and then the bolognese. They want to know about the ingredients in each one. What's in that? What's in that? Oh, I don't know. No. Is there celery in that? I don't know if you put celery in any of those. Bolognese, maybe. All right. I think they're happy, but they're concerned that one of the features in these different dishes could be not taste so good. And you have to have that concern. You don't know until they slide it in front of you.
Can I give you one little piece of news here?
Yes.
Just a small piece. Adam Kaplan, a longtime NFL reporter, reporting for Pro Football Network that the Patriots are going to have Troy Franklin in for a visit. This, I assume he doesn't say this, but this would be a 30 visit. He's the receiver out of Oregon. Undersized guy's like 175 pounds. Very, very fast. But he is a candidate to be drafted, I think, at the top of the second round.
Mm-hmm.
So I wonder if they have that top of the second round pick. They're looking at this receiver class and saying there might be a pretty good player there for us that we should be weaponizing our offense with.
They also spent time with Tez Walker. I don't know if it was just at the combine or if they had him in for a visit, or if it was the pro day. But that's the North Carolina receiver who was the preferred receiver for Drake May. Where would you think a Tez Walker in type of guy will go? Second, third, fourth?
My guess would be third, maybe fourth.
Mm-hmm.
He had a little bit of a tough week at the Senior Bowl, Tom, in terms of catching the football, but he is very fast. He's a great athlete. And so if you're looking for that kind of boundary guy, there's not that, we talked about this on a previous podcast, there's not that many of them. So if you're dying for that guy who can just stretch the field, stress safeties, he would be one of those that you could get on day two, probably, I would say third-ish round.
All right. Well, we just made you guys a little bit smarter. Thank you, Phil, for the tidbit. Meanwhile, we're going to bring in Patriots tight end Hunter Henry for a brief discussion, and then stay tuned for Merril Hoge. Quick slants tonight. Enjoy it. Phil, what's on the next Pats this week?
Oh, we're going to have Dane Brugler on. He releases his Beast draft guide on Wednesday, and so we will drop our Dane Brugler conversation on Wednesday as well, so people can consume his draft guide. They can listen to him on our podcast. It'll be a big Dane Brugler week. He's one of the best.
Love he is, guy. And you're one of the best too, Phil. Thank you so much.
So are you. Sorry for yelling at you earlier. Love you.
It's getting to be kind of a weekly thing.
I think I'm just hungry. I haven't had lunch yet.
I know you're hungry, and I know you just finished doing something in the office, and you need to get home, and it's a beautiful day. Let's put a fork in it and get you out of there, okay? I just had a quiche myself. All right, yeah, I know. You can get them right down there at the Wegmans or the Trader Joe's. All right, we're out of here. Thank you, folks. Here's Hunter. Ladies and gentlemen, I am here with the most reliable offensive weapon the Patriots have had in the passing game over the past 2 years. It's Hunter Henry. It's good that you're back, I think, because you have been reliable. Why did you resign?
I'm excited to be here. I'm excited to be part of the change. Love Mayo. I love this place. I love this organization. And it means a lot to me. So I wanted to be here to be a part of that change, part of the new era, basically, with Mayo. And I'm excited.
Why do you love it? I mean, it's a different place. You grew up in Arkansas. It's different here.
Yeah, I mean, obviously I had 2 kids here, so I think it's always a special place to me. But this organization has a lot of history, a lot of culture. I feel like I blended with the culture in so many ways, and I've loved it from the start. And some might call me crazy in that way, and some things, but I've loved it. I've loved the fans. I've loved the passion of the city. I always kind of thrived off that.
Nice. All right. Well, what's different here within the facility now with a legend, Bill Belichick, not coaching, and Gerard Mayo in his first year? What do you sense differently?
Yeah, I mean, Bill, it was an honor to play for him, and it was a lot of fun for me. I mean, every day felt like I learned a ton over the last 3 years. Mayo, I always had a respect for him, just watch him from afar, him as a coach. But he brings a lot of energy. He's been in our shoes. He's a player, also coach, so he kind of sees both sides of it. So I'm excited to kind of see that blossom with him as a head coach. You were at the podium for a second. You said things are different for sure. In what ways are you noticing, hey, it's a different vibe, it's a different feel, and is that better in all ways, or are there some ways it could be a little tighter? No, I think it's good. Like I said, Mayo brings a lot of energy, and I think that energy is good, man. We can feed off that, and I think that all the guys are excited to play for him. I mean, he is a guy that, like I said, been in our shoes. knows, what it takes. He's, won at a high level as a player, had a lot of success as a coach. So he's a guy that we're excited to play for and go out there and compete.
How's your knee? See, I said ACL. I don't think I was right. You guys can talk about injuries now. I checked.
My knee? Oh, my knee's good. Awesome. Everything's good. It was something minor at the end of the year. It just kind of lined up with the end of the year, how the season went. It was kind of literally right at my recovery time. I was close to playing at the end, but everything feels great.
Good deal. Now, you have been part of the drafting of Justin Herbert, Mac Jones, and there's a strong chance that you will be part of another first-round quarterback being selected by your team. What are the ways a quarterback can succeed? What can you do as a player to make that first-round quarterback at ease and fit in?
Man, I think with any quarterback, tight end can be your best friend. I feel like we're reliable, middle of the field, throw it in the area. We make a play for them, make it easy on them, calm them down. There's so many intangibles even off the field, and just keep picking guys up. Mm-hmm. And just trying to keep guys going. But, obviously I played with two really, really good rookie quarterbacks and had some success. So it's definitely a thing that can happen. I played with really, like I said, two good ones. And so it'll be exciting if it happens. The
resiliency, last question on this, because I know you're talking out of your lane a little bit, but the resiliency at that position when you're on a building team is immense. So is that one of the components of mental and physical toughness that a player is going to need to succeed? I know the caveat of every position needs that, but this one in particular.
Yeah, I think that's huge in any position. Like you said, we all need it, but that position is huge. There's a lot that falls on their shoulders. Obviously they're praised when things go well, but they're dogs when things aren't going well. So you
notice that? That happened.
Oh, I've seen it, man. I've seen it firsthand all the time too. Through the years. It's just kind of what the position is, man. They have the ball in their hands on every play, so they impact the game in a lot of ways, and you got to be tough. But you also need guys around you that can pick you up when you're down. Keep you humble when things are going good too.
You know what, ladies and gentlemen, I think it's important to note too that Hunter Henry's golf game is developing. Despite the fact there are two kids in the house now, somehow his golf game is developing. Where do you need the most work?
Everything. You said my golf game is developing. I like talking about it, but I haven't been out enough. Like you said, two kids at home and young kids, it's hard to get out enough.
Yeah, when you get old, you get a shot. But now, no shot. No shot. Thanks, man. Hey, what's up, everybody? Let's bring in my guy, Merril Hoge, former Pittsburgh Steeler. He was a fullback. He was a really good one, too, and a long-time analyst for ESPN. He is absolutely a fearless analyst, too. He is a draft rabble-rouser. He's not afraid to stir up the draft industrial complex, the DIC, or the ditch, or if you want to pronounce it differently, you can. Bottom line is Merril Hoge has some strong opinions on the quarterbacks at the top of the drafts, most notably two who most likely will be there when the Patriots do their selecting. Drake May, North Carolina, J.J. McCarthy, Michigan. Let's get Merril in here, do some gum flapping. All right, ladies and gentlemen, here he is. It's Merril Hoge. Before we get into the specific prospects, and the top 4 or 5 are the ones that I want to kind of hit with you, but what are you looking for, Merril, in a quarterback at the top of the draft? What are those qualities you covet?
Well, there's really two things, and they're entwined as one. You can't have one without the other. They have to work together. And it's really a guy who processes things quickly and effectively and is accurate.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where it starts. And so, let's say you don't have accuracy, but you're a pretty good processor. Well, the accuracy will run you out of the league. Let's say you're accurate, but you're really not a good processor. Well, that'll run you out of the league. So those two things you have to show in college that you can really perform well. And listen, in the last 5 years, roughly 2 guys have displayed that I've studied coming out of college. If you just keep it current, there's been obviously a lot of other guys prior to that, but just being current. And that's C.J. Stroud and Joe Burrow, and that just kind of does tell you how hard it is to transition from college to the National Football League. And the one thing that I just think is so important is I look at I evaluate players on where they're going to play, not where they're playing. And see, that's always the problem, because fans look at the college player and, I won a Heisman Trophy, and that's a college thing. I won a national championship. That's a college thing. I played in the SEC. That's the SEC in college. There's a bunch of things that change and are big changes from college to the NFL that I don't think anybody considers, and they are monumental. First of all, the field is different. Okay, now the width and length are the same. However, the hash marks are different, and that completely changes the environment of the game. College hash marks are wide. In the NFL, they're narrow. In college, they play on the perimeter. In the NFL, you got to play in the middle. And then when you look at the defenses and offenses that exist in the NFL, they're not even in the same hemisphere.
No,
with
sophistication,
what you see in
physicality.
It's mind-boggling. That's the biggest change. The biggest hurdle, everybody goes, speed. No, speed's third. Number one is the IQ of the game, the overall intelligence of the game. You got grown men that are best in the world, paying millions of dollars to play it, and they're good at it. You got great coaches. You got great people that game plan, think of things. You guys had one of the best, if not the best of all time, in Bill Belichick, and that's what you're going against each and every Sunday, and that's just a big jump and a monumental jump.
When you look at this draft, you talked, Merril, about accuracy and processing as being the two main things. Who among these 4 or 5 quarterbacks, if we want to throw Nick's in there, let's take Williams out. He's going 1. For a New England fan base, not as impertinent. But when we talk about Penix, Nix, and then McCarthy, May, and Daniels, who is the most ready-made among those 5 to come in and play quarterback at a good level?
Yeah, well, nobody's ever ready-made, because some people have a better skill set, to transition.
Who's the closest?
And really, Daniels. Go to the two things. And he played in a pro-style system. There's a lot of things, layers that you got to tear apart here. He had some of the best group of wide receivers in football. And the reason I mentioned that in college football, okay, the reason I mentioned that because I do look at let's use Brock Purdy. It's the first time I've ever done this in some 30 years of doing this type of evaluation. I never looked at Brock Purdy coming out. And then when Brock Purdy started playing well, I'm like, I'm going to go watch him in college and see if he would demonstrate the things that you would say, yeah, okay, he has that. So it was interesting. It was an interesting study for me because, listen, nobody knows everything. It's not a perfect science. And the more that you can learn in the process, the less mistakes that you can make. So I did the exercise for a reason.
With New England, you could even contend, however, that they don't have a wide receiver core comparable to the best wide receiver cores in college football. That being the case, Drake May is sitting there most likely, and J.J. McCarthy too, are most likely going to be the players the Patriots are choosing between. You see that as being a real dice roll, to say the least.
The make kid will get you fired. I wouldn't touch him. Okay, let's talk about the two things I just mentioned, processing and accuracy. I cannot think of somebody as erratic as I have seen. I mean, in every level. People bring up Josh Allen all of the time. And Josh, they are 100% incorrect. This kid in North Carolina, I mean, I'm going to tell you this, I've watched all his last 2 years, every game. And I tried, the best game I saw, which actually would be a marginal game too. You'd be like, you'd walk away going, was the Pitt game. His last game, the NC State game, I'm telling you, when I got done with it, I'm like, can he function in a dirty environment? Does he move well and still throw well and process well? He's bad there, and he's bad in a clean pocket, which actually was very disturbing because that one really was like, oh, man, there's the dirty pocket. I get it because that happens to a lot of players. Zach Wilson, who backed up my son at BYU, by the way, so I know Zach Wilson very well. He could not function from a dirty pocket, and he could not function when it was even Steven. Every game he lost, both Utah games, Hawaii game, Toledo game, Coastal Carolina game, one other game, I can't remember.
Can Drake improve with better footwork? Because it looks like he steps way the hell out to the left all the time.
Okay.
For no reason.
Now let's okay. Well, you're talking that's pocket presence, which that's another layer I looked at. I'm like, he wanders all over the place. And then, okay, how much can you improve? Okay, so this is the thing that really gets teams in trouble. I've seen it. Every organization does it. Well, I'll fix it. I'm gonna fix it. I'm gonna fix it.
So Drake May is a dice roll. I have two questions for you. We'll try and keep this tight. What are your thoughts on JJ McCarthy? And what would you do if you are the Patriots at number 3?
Okay, JJ McCarthy is okay. Okay, he's just okay. And here's where I think that teams. Here's where I just think you have to have a bigger vision than one draft, and this is it. I understand every guy is important, but think about it. If you're already making a guy a first rounder, which JJ McCarthy, based on the guys we've talked about, CJ Stroud, Joe Burrow, is not a first rounder. He's not a first rounder. Now, people go, well, he's a first rounder this year. Okay, well, then if you want to justify that, then take that chance. Take that chance. I go back to nothing great is built suddenly. Teams win championships. Where the Patriots are sitting at number 3. Are you going to tell me? I haven't seen every player eligible for this draft, so I cannot speak on looking at all the players. Okay, but the players that I have looked at, okay, there's a receiver in Ohio State that is clearly better than any quarterback that would be available at the number 3. That would be better.
Offensive tackle.
Gosh, actually, there's a bunch of tackles that I love. Now this goes back to, every organization has a different view and a different perspective. And the eye, you've heard that the beauty is in the eye of the beholder. Well, talent is in the eye of the beholder. If you're really honest with yourself, those guys aren't elite that we just talked about. The two guys, those are the kinds of guys that get you fired and set your organization back even further. And then really in the top 5, there's not homework done right. You really do your due diligence. You shouldn't mess it up. I mean, listen, I don't always have, when we get these evaluations, those interview processes. And listen, everything is torn apart on all these players. I mean, you got every team has people everywhere. You have good insight. How were they, on campus? Not just pro days, but how were they in high school? What's their overall character? What is your feel? You have a pretty good sense of that. Now you still can't measure somebody when they, they get all the money they've ever thought of, and where that takes them.
Right.
That's why finding, trying to have a feel of, does this guy just love the game, and does he love the process, and does he love all of that?
Be physically
tough,
all
those things. And he has that, or is he an entitled punk, that ain't going to survive in our league, Nope. So they're in a unique situation in the sense of, I mean, I just think Daniels, if Washington doesn't take Daniels, then I'll tell you this, now that kid gives me a little bit of hope. There's not very many players, the last guy that wasn't this bad, but he was bad, was the Titans drafted him in the 3rd round, Malik Willis. Okay, when I started watching Malik Willis, I was like, there's no way this is a first-round draft pick. There's just no way. And for somebody to put him up in New York, okay, shame on them. For anybody to say, okay, that guy's a first-round pick, Will Levis, ain't no way. Okay, the best thing happened to Will Levis is not to go in the first round. All those expectations of that first round. In fact, when he does something great, they're like, oh, my gosh, we the mother load. We got him in the 2nd round. But, okay, Will Levis, you talk about erratic. Will Levis has no pocket presence whatsoever, okay? He's just got a big arm, and he's an athlete. I mean, and some of his biggest problems was processing. When I'd see some things, just go, I'll give you an example.
And that's what you're seeing with May?
Oh, my gosh. May.
So May is like Levis. May is like Levis and Willis a little bit.
Correct. There's just no way I would ever take him as a first rounder. I am not going to fix his massive inconsistencies in accuracy. I can help you. I'll go back to his feet. I can help him a little bit with his feet. We can clean that, but he is a slow, methodical guy. He is not a quick twitch guy. Okay, so you can only get so much better there. You can't make him say a Dan Marino. You're not going to make him that. We can clean it up, and we can even help with his accuracy a little bit. But at the end of the day, he is always going to be inconsistent and erratic. And keep in mind, if we're going to work on that, if I got to work on all those issues, When are we going to work on the offense we're running? When are we going to work on the defense we're going? I'm just telling you, that's what. So you have all these massive flaws going on that aren't going to get fixed overnight either. Okay, months and months of work, diligent commitment every single day. That goes to, like, I heard somebody say, well, if this guy fails, it's the coach's fault. Well, then that is 100% incompetence, because, and even played in this league, there's ownership as a player goes too. Mm-hmm. You have to work on your craft. You have to find out what you're weak at and be willing to be committed to that as much as you are your strengths. If you do not, you're not going to get the most out of your talents.
Merril Hoge, you have now made New England that much more collectively anxious about the draft. We appreciate it.
I hope it works out for you guys. I mean, teams win championships and nothing great is built suddenly. If you focus right there and you have patience, then you guys are going to be all right.
Thank you so much, Merril. Really appreciate you taking the time. Merril Hoge.